President Obama is playing presidential politics, delaying a decision on the proposed Keystone XL oil pipeline until the spring of next year. But today, a group of Republican senators introduced a bill in an attempt to force his hand. The bill would give the president just 60 days to approve the project, which could create as many as 20,000 direct jobs, maybe another 100,000 indirect. We're joined tonight by members of both houses. From the House side, Chief Democratic Deputy Whip Peter Welch of Vermont, and from the Senate side, Louisiana Republican David Vitter. I begin with you, David Vitter. You are proposing this new bill that would put the president on notice for 60 days for the pipeline. Can you tell us about it?
Well, Larry, this is the single biggest truly shovel-ready jobs creator project in the country. As you said, 20,000 direct jobs, many more indirect, $7 billion of investment, 700,000 barrels of oil per day from Canada, a very safe, reliable ally and neighbor. And so it makes all the sense in the world. The only thing delaying this and blocking this is just what you said at the beginning, presidential politics. And so our bill would move the process forward, start those jobs, that project immediately, which is very practical to do and the right thing to do.
Peter Welch, I'll bring you in because the State Department signed off on this thing a couple of times before the White House got their claws in it. We actually have a chance to be energy independent, according to today's newspaper, front of the Wall Street Journal. Why not, Mr. Welch?
Well, it's not a question of why not. It's a question of whether you're going to do two things. One, investigate whether there is a conflict of interest. The Inspector General of the State Department, partly in response to a letter inquiring, said there has to be an investigation because TransCanada, who's going to be building the pipeline and sending the oil down, was the one that made the major recommendation about the firm that did the environmental impact statement. So that obviously raises questions. And then the second question is...
Can I just clarify that, Peter Welch? Look, you're a regular. I don't mean to interrupt or be disrespectful. You're saying the Inspector General of the State Department has a conflict of interest with Keystone?
No. Asked the question as to whether or not there was a conflict of interest by allowing TransCanada, which is the energy company, to make the recommendation on the firm that would do the environmental impact statement. That is a question as to whether there was a conflict of interest that was raised by the Inspector General as well as members of Congress like me. So that's something people want to know was on the level. That's one. Number two, there really are some environmental questions. Now, Senator Vitter made some good points, but it doesn't mean that you have to have an arbitrary date by which you answer some of these environmental questions. And the major reason you can look to that as being a nonpartisan issue is that the governor of Nebraska, a Republican, a pro-development, a pro-energy, a pro-capitalist person, had a special session, and they were objecting because of the significant apprehension they had about the threat to their water supply.
Larry, if I can jump in, those Nebraska issues have been solved. Peter's right. The governor and the state legislature came together. They agreed on a process to get a new route in the Nebraska portion of the pipeline. That was the only U.S. environmental issue there was, so that has been solved. We can move forward now with the rest of the project and adopt their process to determine the Nebraska route and dovetail those two. But we can start now with real jobs, truly shovel-ready jobs, real energy independence.
Can I just, what is this conflict of interest issue? Why is it a conflict of interest if the TransCanada, if the Keystone people make their case before the State Department? I'm not sure I get this at all. I thought independent groups had weighed in on this already.
No,
yeah, Larry, I think with all due respect to Peter, it's an excuse, not a reason. And we've been handing excuses for years now, and now the president wants to kick it even more years beyond the election.
You know,
these are important jobs and it's important energy, and Americans deserve more than excuses. They deserve solutions, and this is a good, important project to move forward on.
Go ahead, Peter.
Well, David, I'm with you on jobs. We all know we need jobs. But on this question of a conflict, it is a question where you have the company that is going to be selling this oil and transporting it, being the one that makes the recommendation on the company that is doing the environmental impact statement, where there has to be a neutral review of what are the significant consequences. Now, you know, Louisiana's had experience with the tragedy possibility of things gone wrong that wouldn't go wrong, the oil spill. And I think being cautious to make certain that there is a solid environmental plan.
It's been 3 years, Peter, with all due respect.
Larry, let me just point out, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton and the State Department
I'm a drill guy. I put my cards on the table. This is not going to shock either of you. But, Peter, it's been 3 years, for heaven's sakes.
It hasn't been 3 years in the environmental impact statement, and you've got the Inspector General actually calling out the fact that you had the company that was going to benefit by this recommending the so-called neutral person or company that was going to be doing the review. That's the Inspector General talking. That's not me. So that's a real concern. And again, you know, this is the enormous dilemma we have with trade-offs in energy, because we do need energy. Oil is part of it. We also have to make a transition to a new energy economy. There are jobs, but there also are very vivid examples of real things going wrong.
And Larry, if I can just point out, this is before the State Department.
We're flat out of time. Last word, Senator Vitter.
Hillary Clinton said this would be ready to go, their decision, by the end of the year. Then all of a sudden, it's postponed at the White House level. Larry, that is clearly politics over substance.
And we know
unfortunately, politics over people.
There you go. Hillary Clinton, she gets it right. She gets it right. We'll leave it on that note. Senator Vitter, thank you. House Member Peter Welch, you're both terrific for coming on. We appreciate it very much.